Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Ellargu Namaskara. Welcome to 116th Madhvacharya for Youth workshop. Indeed, today's web talk is slightly unique from all the workshops that we had previously conducted. In all of our previous workshops, we had a topic to discuss. Me and the speaker had a topic, and then we dwelled into the topic and we took questions from the viewers and answered those. And the agenda of the Madhvacharya for Youth web talk was to keep as interactive as possible. And after the workshop, so we had received many questions from the viewers, and due to time constraint, we couldn't answer those in the live sessions, and we followed those questions to the viewers back. And we had a lot of similar questions or questions which were repeating in terms of topics, and hence what we decided is to keep this workshop completely based on question and answers. So even in our shastras, questions and answers are very had been kept at a high level, so that always question and answers were encouraged to ask. So we will start this workshop by bringing in Sunder Madakshira, who is the speaker for the day.
Namaskar.
Hi Sundar, welcome to 116 Madhvacharya for Youth.
Thank you for having me today.
Thanks Sundar. Sundar, before we begin, I was just thinking about this thing of Bhagavad Gita has this unique style of question and answer where Arjuna keeps asking questions, and Krishna would answer to those questions. So what is this format of question and answers?
Yeah, so first of all, welcome to everybody to the workshop. I'm very happy that many people have joined and will be joining in the subsequent few minutes. The question of questions, as we call it, is a very important aspect of our scriptures. If you read any shastras, any scriptural work, it is full of questions, it is full of inquiries, it is full of provocation, and then there are, very importantly, there are answers, there are responses, and there is a path that is given forward by a gnani. So you mentioned the Bhagavad Gita, which is clearly a great example of this. It's full of question and answer. Similarly, if you read the Bhagavata, it is also full of, and it is in the form of a dialogue between two people. And what this really helps is for somebody to seek answers and somebody else to give the questions give the answers to those questions and remove those doubts in people's mind. So if you see, virtually every Shastra Grantha starts with a question. It could be, Katakopanishad, it could be Kenopanishad. The name itself is Kenopanishad. So there is a question or there is a hypothesis and there is an answer, which is coming in the form of a response. There is also the format of what we call as Purva Paksha and Siddhanta. That is more of the Brahma Sutra style of presentation, where there is a certain question or a hypothesis which it starts, and then there is an answer which is given as a form, which is actually establishes the philosophy. So that is the structure of all our granthas. So the importance of questions is extremely high. I cannot really say that with any more of emphasis that I am already right now, where I'm talking about what the questions and what answers we are giving to people. That's a very important structure of all our Shastra Granthas.
Okay. I would request all the viewers to have their questions handy. So how we have divided this entire sessions is from the repository of questions that we've received previously from 10 workshops. We have divided these questions into a number of buckets or the headers. So you can ask your questions and we would pick up those questions in those particular headers that we were discussing. Or probably at the end of this web talk, we would be taking those questions and answering them, right? So that is how the structure for today's web talk is. So that to begin with, I was just wondering about this word philosophy. What do you think the word philosophy is, and does philosophy, is it relevant, or is it mandatory to everyone? Does everyone needs to know about philosophy?
I think that's a very good question to start with, as such, Santosh. Philosophy is nothing but a state of mind, and it is a form of science where there is an inquiry about something and there is a certain response given to that. So, philosophy specifically refers to the understanding of the word Brahman, or the nature of God, the nature of the soul, and nature of this world. So, in our world, in our universe, there are predominantly three entities. One is the God, or the center, or the supreme power, and the second one is the souls, which all of us are, which are our living beings, and the third corner of the triangle is the world around us. The form of science which explains the relationship between God and the souls and the nature around us, as well as the interrelationships that we have, is called philosophy. So any form of philosophy, when it claims to be philosophy, has to address the nature of Brahman, or the nature of God, and the nature of souls, as well as the world, and what how we are all interconnected. So that is, in short, what philosophy is all about.
So, Sundar, can you does it mean that all the philosophy has this triangular model, or is it only Indian philosophy has this kind of construct?
That's a very good question again, Santosh. If you look at the philosophies across the world, be it Christianity, be it Islam, be it Buddhism or Jainism, or other forms of philosophy which came, which were offshoots of these major forms of thinking, all of them actually have this structure in common. Now, there could be variations in which the questions have been answered, but very, very surprisingly, the structure of philosophy has remained the same. So, if you read
Okay.
Socrates or Aristotle on one hand, you read parts of the Bible on the other, or you read parts of the Quran, they all try to understand or explain what is the nature of God, what is the nature of the soul, and what is the nature of this world. Now, again, everybody, I think, has made a very honest attempt within the knowledge levels that they had, within the exposure that they have, and of course, the hypothesis that they basically came from to explain this relationship. So, this structure on philosophy is very, very common everywhere.
Okay. Uh, is it is philosophy for everyone, Sundar? Is it is something very important for everyone?
So, that is again a puzzling question. When you say that, is philosophy for everyone, I think the answer to that will be found if you can answer this question: is does everybody want to be happy? Right? Ultimate goal of philosophy, when we explain this triangular relationship that we just spoke about, the net result is that we should feel happy. We should all feel happy. We should have no sorrow, and that state that we call as moksha, or ananda, or bliss, as we call it, is what we all want to achieve. A state where there is only happiness and there is absolutely no sorrow. That is the ultimate goal of any philosophical quest, because the idea is, when you have understood the world, when you have understood yourself, and you have understood the God, it should liberate you, and it should make it very clear to you what gives you that happiness, and then you pursue it and achieve that happiness. Now, is philosophy for everyone? I am not sure, but I can tell you one thing: is happiness for everyone? If the answer is yes, there is nobody, no soul in this world who does not want to be happy, then the
Okay.
answer is clear that philosophy is for everyone. Everybody should take up study of philosophy in the manner that he deems is right. So clearly, I think it is a way of life. It is a way of thinking, and which has got only one goal, which is to make people happy. So I would say that yes, philosophy is for everyone, and like happiness is for everyone. Unfortunately, what has happened is philosophy has become to be known as something which is abstract and something which nobody can understand,
Correct.
which is, I think, a myth. I think it comes largely because of people who have not studied philosophy. Before you read anything, before you study anything that looks like a myth, that looks it looks abstract. If somebody does not know how to study biology, for example, it will look very abstract to him. But a systematic study of any field, we all have our own experiences. We feel that yes, this is exactly what you should be studying. Let's go back to the day in which you were in fifth standard, and you finished your fifth standard exams, and you come, you're going to start the sixth standard in a couple of months, and your parents used to get you those books that you need for the sixth standard. When you looked at those books, they looked abstract, they looked cryptic, they looked almost impossible for you to study. But when you started studying chapter by chapter, slowly you realize that whatever that book is talking about is nothing but an extension of what you actually have already studied in the earlier classes and earlier sessions. So it doesn't look like something which is an offshoot or something that does not belong to it. So I would say that study of philosophy is something similar. It's a very, very intriguing, very interesting topic, provided, of course, we start somewhere. And a systematic study under a guru, in the format that it is prescribed, is very important. And I think I've given that example a few times in our workshop. If somebody goes to a bookstall and picks up 5 books on medicine and starts to study that, he's not going to be called a doctor. He can call himself a doctor, but nobody else will call him a doctor, and he will not have the satisfaction of knowing a field in all the entirety that is there. So similarly, the field of philosophy, it needs a systematic study under a teacher and under the guidance, and one will definitely find it interesting. So I think that abstractness is something which will keep going away over a period of time.
So you said, Sunder, that philosophy's main goal, one of the main goal, is to make humans happy. So in that context, what does religion play?
Yeah, Santosh,
how does so you defined it? You saying that philosophy. To seek philosophy is to be happy. Basically, so one of the output of reading philosophy is to be happy. So in this thing, we also have something called religion. So what does religion play here?
Yeah, so just like any form of science or any form of learning can be approached from different ways. There are different paths to that. Similarly,
Okay.
as I mentioned, different people have made their own attempt to explaining the nature of God and the triangular relationship. Like that, each form has become known as one form of religion. So since it typically goes after the people who founded that form of philosophy, it is known after them, or it is known after the ultimate quest that they are all going after. But the final aim of all philosophical studies is common, and that's what I would like to emphasize. So religions are different paths that people pursue in that quest.
Okay. Sundar, another thing is that even scientists also make this kind of deep investigation. Do we call them as a scientific inquiry, or do we call them as philosophers?
Yeah, so there is a slight difference. The difference is between what is called physical and what is called metaphysical. And again, scientist is a very broad term. When some people, there are some scientists who are philosophers, and as we have known, most scientists were philosophers, because I think they started with a spirit of inquiry. But why is it like this? Why is some phenomena like this? Why does nature behave in this particular way? And they came to their own conclusions and theories. The difference between what we call as modern science and philosophy is the fact that modern science seeks to explain the world around us only when it can see it, or when it can come to that conclusion by the vision of sight or understanding. Whereas philosophy is much broader. It goes beyond what one can see, and all of us will appreciate that there is a world which is beyond what we can see. So let us say, I'm sitting here in my home, and right now I cannot see my office, which is 25 kilometers away. That does not mean that the office does not exist. So if you look at the whole topic of philosophy, it is metaphysical. It starts where science ends. And this is the universal definition that has been accepted by everybody. But what philosophy is all about. It seeks to explain what our eyes and our senses cannot perceive. And it's everybody's own experience that there are things that our senses cannot experience.
Okay. So that there is a slight gap between philosophy, the word philosophy, and religion. So how do you actually see these two worlds, basically?
Can you repeat that question, Santosh?
Philosophy and religion are very closely knitted. So how do you actually see these two spaces? How
Yeah.
do you the differences, basically?
So I don't think there's an essential difference. What it is, philosophy is the field, and religions are different approaches, right? So, for example, let us take the topic of health. So, when you talk about health sciences, there is allopathy, there is homeopathy, and there is Ayurveda, and there is Unani, and there are so many other forms of medicine that are there. All of them are like religions, but the end goal is that a person should become healthy and be cured of any disease that he has. All of them make their own attempts to be able to solve that. So we should look at all these religions as our paths, which have all made their attempt to explain the nature of the triangular relationship we talked about.
Okay. And so, since there are a lot of philosophies out there, there is always comparison between philosophies. So, how does one make that judgment? Like, this philosophy is something for me. How does he make that decision?
Yeah, so I think that's again a very valid question about why one should pursue one form of philosophy versus the other. I think there are a few things to consider here. One is the fact that before anybody comes to a conclusion, he should have an independent study of philosophy itself. And unlike what we think is the nature of philosophy, it is not something that is pushing everything down somebody's throat. It is not at all that. It is offering a different hypothesis for people to actually consider and validate by in their own ways, in whatever way they feel is right. Now, Madhva philosophy, the Dvaita philosophy, which is also the latest philosophy in that sense, to actually do a serious discussion on the nature of Brahman and the soul and the world, prescribes, saying that okay, when you are on the spirit of when you are on this journey of inquiry, you will obviously encounter several questions, and each of these questions can be answered. But when you answer, you will have to decide what is an acceptable answer and what is not an acceptable answer. So you need what is called as a proof. Just like you go to a court of law and argue, put forward your arguments. Each argument should has to be followed up with a certain proof that you provide to the court, saying that look, this is what you should admit as proof, and this is why you should take my word as against the word of my opponent. That's how it is argued. So the proof that you give is actually explained, and Madhva philosophy has very clearly laid out the rules for what is acceptable proof and what is not acceptable proof. So these are enumerated in the Sri Jayatirtha's Pramana Paddhati, where he talks about what is acceptable proof. Now, why did I share all this? I shared this to basically say that there is, just like the way we have certain framework, there's a framework that's available in science to accept something as valid or invalid. Thousands of people might apply for the Nobel Prize, but then there is a committee which goes through this with a framework saying if this is eligible for a prize only when certain things happen, and that framework is very, very crucial. So my suggestion to anybody who is talking about different forms of philosophy is actually to take up the study of philosophy. There are enough comparisons available. And very importantly, ask those questions to yourself and to an eligible guru and get those questions answered. Second thing is, as one goes into the study of philosophy, one has his own experiences. So whatever is said, it keeps playing in our mind at the background, in our subconscious mind, and we get the answers saying yes, whatever I'm hearing as this particular philosophy is what I'm experiencing, right? When those things are not things which one can experience, he can say, hey, you know what, you are telling me something, but that is not what I'm experiencing at all, right? Just like it is, somebody comes and says, switches on the AC and sets it to 20 degrees Celsius. You are supposed to feel cool. If you do not feel cool or cold around you, that means that is not your experience. So like that, this is example of a a physical world. Like philosophy as well, if one hears a philosophical tenet, he should put it to test in his own mind and consider whatever he thinks is right. One should never follow something because it is said blindly. And I think uh, people do that because they simply have not found the time, they do not have not had the mindset to accept or not accept certain things. We have not taken up philosophy as a serious study, most of us. Some of us who have, I think, will be convinced that one does get experiences. So that is what um, Madhya philosophy says, is that there is something called, like vision is also a sense. There is another sense which is called sakshi, which is something which is there in your mind, which constantly is evaluating what is right and what is wrong. And based on that, anubhava or experience is going to tell you which form of philosophy is right. So put every question that you have to this test about what do you experience, what do you think. Great masters have said so many things, and it's up to us to make an honest evaluation and come to that conclusion. So therefore, whatever philosophy which you finally accept as your philosophy is something that you have taken in your heart. No more should you be saying that this is a valid question and this is a valid hypothesis because my guru said so. We should say that yes, my guru taught me, I heard it, and I have validated this. Then therefore, it is my philosophy. If you look at great gurus who came in the Dvaita tradition, they have all done that same thing. Vadaraja does it; he says it very, very explicitly that I have evaluated every other form of philosophy and then come to the conclusion that Madhva Sagama Evahi. That means Madhva Shastra is the right one. So, like the way he came to his conclusion, I think we should all come to our own conclusions.
Okay. So that I also see that seekers in every philosophy would also suffer as well. So, like, how do we draw this parallel? Like, I also go through sufferings while I might be following that philosophy to the core. But why do I see that kind of contrast?
Yeah, so the suffering comes to everybody, and philosophers are also not immune to it because everybody, all of us come with certain past sins and past karmas which we have to pay for. Our pursuit of philosophy ensures that we are able to endure those pains in a philosophical way. We all know this. People who are spiritually minded are people who will always look at the world very differently, even when they're going through tremendous amount of pressure, tremendous anxiety, tremendous sorrow. They never show that in their dealings with the others. They might be suffering from enormous physical pain, but this is something that they say that this is the way, this is what God has given me, and it is primarily given to me because I have committed a big sin. I have committed a big sin, but God has decided to punish me only a little bit. And whatever I am seeing as a punishment or sorrow is an outcome of that particular, of outcome because of that particular scenario. So we all know the life of Sri Raghavendra Swamiji. Again, someone who experienced poverty at the highest levels, but not one for one moment did were his belief in philosophy shaken. So clearly, it is happening because of our past sins. Now, again, when if there are difficulties that one goes through when he is on the pursuit of philosophy, that is because we are not familiar with the topic of philosophy. It is probably because we are starting it for the first time, and understanding that will take getting into that mindset takes a few days and a few weeks, but not beyond that. Once you get into that scenario, you start studying that on a regular basis, you will get into that mindset. So the moment you pick up a Madhva Shastra book or any book for that matter which dealing philosophy, you will start to get more and more comfortable reading it over a period of time. So I think these are two things one would expect when somebody is on a philosophical quest.
Okay. Sundar, I have a last question
Can you,
just before
sorry,
we.
sorry, I just one more point. From my own experiences, I can tell you that all of us have read. I'm sure we've read spy novels, and there is a lot of intrigue. Every time we put the novel down, we are wondering what's going to happen next. A well-written suspense thriller will always ensure that you are on your toes, thinking what's going to happen next. you know it might come as a surprise to many, but philosophical texts are no less, because they're full of these questions and answers, question answer session. When one gets to the question, one cannot go to sleep without getting the answer that very night, because that question keeps running in your mind. And the form of question and answer is so genuine that even you may miss that question, but our gurus never miss asking and answering those questions all by themselves. So I would say that it is the study of philosophy. Whatever little I have done, I can say from that experience that it has got the all the making of keeping that engagement very very high, very addictive. You wouldn't like to miss a class even for one day.
With that, Sundar, like you're seriously pushing all our viewers to take up reading philosophy seriously.
Definitely, yes. Yes.
Sundar, before we move on, I have like last one question under the subject of philosophy. Like while let's take up any philosophy for that instance. Like while I keep going into that philosophy, I get completely engrossed and I don't know what's happening outside. So basically, I'll be blindfolded or be basically colored with by that philosophy itself. So how do I know that this is the truth compared to other philosophies?
So that is a very interesting topic again, Santosh. But so when one studies philosophy, he doesn't go into a tube, because what happens is the structure of philosophical texts is such that at each stage this needs validation. Now, sometimes we get this question saying, "Look, philosophy, yeah, you give me a simple 100-page book, I will read that, and then I will have understood philosophy. Why are you saying the same things over and over again? You said that God is great. We should all do good things. We should follow dharma. We should follow these rituals. This is the meaning of these rituals. You told us all of this. So once if you say, isn't that enough, right? Now the point is that has got something to do with the nature of our mind. It is not. Philosophy is very clear. It is giving us a very correct direction, and there is no confusion there at all. But what happens? They are not repeating it to convince themselves, but the nature of the human mind is such that once it absorbs a certain topic, it very soon it starts to those topics tend to fade away from our mind. So now we are all listening to this workshop. Now right now when we are listening, it seems that we have understood or heard everything, and all our questions are answered. But after half an hour, again the doubts arise. Again we have forgotten a lot of things that were mentioned. We even forgot to ask the questions that we wanted to ask. All that keeps happening on a daily basis because there are a lot of other things that keep coming into our mind. Our mind is disturbed, so it keeps asking this. In the nature of philosophy, one is in this constant study, constantly these tenets of the philosophy are coming under question. Constantly there is a discussion, constantly there is a debate, constantly there are questions and there are answers which are given. So one can never go into a tube, one can never take it for granted. So repeated study of any form of philosophy only takes you deep into it. You look at let us say there is a neurosurgeon. Every day he wants to get better at neurosurgery, and he keeps reading, he keeps researching. He wants to perform more surgeries. He studies more cases. He reads more journals. He talks to he attends seminars on neurosurgery, and he goes very deep. Does it make him blindfolded to a new form of medicine that comes? No. In fact, on the contrary, he's more likely to learn something new because he has an open mind. If you ask me, I think the person who is the most eligible to study philosophy is a person with an open mind, not with a person who's got a constricted mind. Because questions
Okay.
are not going to go away in philosophy. They will keep coming. They will keep coming like the waves of an ocean.
So one of the prerequisite for any philosopher that you're saying is that to have an open mind while he's uh, taking up a particular philosophy. Okay. So then, like you just mentioned, saying that most of the religions talks, doing certain things right. I mean, might be Hinduism or any other religions. But why do we stress upon only on certain religions while most of the religions talk the same language?
Yeah. So like I mentioned, each of these religions is coming with its the has prescribed its own path, right? Now all these paths, are an attempt to reach the final goal, which is to understand the world around us, the God, and the nature of our soul. Doesn't mean that all these forms have always been succeeded have succeeded quite clearly in their explanation. They've all made an attempt, but it's up to us to decide which is the one which is actually giving the correct answer, and the answer which is convincing to us. So that is why these, though they all have made an attempt, it is some which are more convincing than the others, and it's up to for us to sit and
Yes.
evaluate whether that form of religion or that path is going to take to us. And I think also one should be aware that when we're talking about the different religions that are there, each one of them come with their own prescriptions about what should be done and what is the path to that dharma, what is our karma, what is our kartavya, what is our duty, and what is how does actually one go about doing it. Now before one gets into understanding that religion and actually practicing that religion, he should be aware of what it takes to be a part of that religion. And is that something that's acceptable to us? It may not be. So one decides, okay, that is not the path I want. I want to take another path which I feel I'm more convinced about. And we are doing it all the time. Just because we are born in a certain community or a religion doesn't mean that we are not evaluating. Our inquiring mind has always been asking these questions. And when you come to the conclusion that one religion and one form or one path in that religion is the right one, then we start to follow it. Otherwise, we are not following it.
Okay. With regard to philosophy, there's one question that I would like to take it, Sundar, from Sudarshan Sundaram. He says, we don't have our lifetime to read all through philosophies and then decide which one is right for us. Then how do I go about uh, about a philosophy? How do we choose a philosophy?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think the way to do that is very simple. I would call it failing early strategy, right? Startups do it all the time. That when you start with a certain business, if that's not something that's going to be working, you say, okay, I'm not going to be pursuing it. So in the case of philosophy as well, I think what one needs to do is to start by reading some basic texts about our philosophy. So, for example, we have been telling Madhva, Dr. Vyasankara Prabhanjanacharya has simplified the whole of Madhva philosophy in a very, very simple book called Madhva Shastra, where he's talking about what are the basic tenets of the Madhva Shastra itself. There is a book written by Dr. B.N.K. Sharma on the philosophy of Sri Madhvacharya. Now, the benefit of reading a book like this is that it not only talks about the Dvaita philosophy, but it also talks about other forms of philosophy, right? So it's worthwhile spending some time, if not all the time, to make a quick evaluation about why should I pursue one form versus the other will be useful. The second thing is that even when someone is starting off on that journey, it will be very clear to him because of the nature of his soul that this path is right or this path is wrong or I'm not convinced. And our history is replete with so many examples of people who were born in a particular community and who had taken up philosophical studies for decades before coming to the conclusion that that form of philosophy is not the right one, and they changed into another form of philosophy. So to simplify, I think what I would urge is that before you take up any form of philosophy, read some part of it which is simple to understand, we can be read in a finite period of time, and actually get to know what is philosophy, what is that form of philosophy saying, what are the major you know teachings of that philosophy, what is the framework of that sort of philosophy, What are the basic tenets of that philosophy which define it, and how are they different from other forms of philosophy that are being prescribed, and then come to your own conclusions. And of course, there are many gurus and many teachers, learned scholars, who can clarify any doubts that we have on why one form of philosophy is right or not.
Okay. Moving on, Sundar, like the next topic that we would be discussing is about spirituality. Uh, what do you think about this word spirituality, and what is a way of living? What is a
Yeah, so
spiritual way of living? Yeah.
absolutely. So, we had made an attempt to understand and explain that in one of the earlier workshops, which is saying that spirituality is nothing but a state of mind, where you believe that there is God, and there is us. God is our master, and we are his servants. That is spirituality. Now, when you look at that, a person who is with that spiritual frame of mind, no matter what he is doing, he is working with this deep rooted belief, and that one thought, that one single thought, is guiding everything in his life. So he may be a person who is, working as an IT software engineer. He could be a doctor. He could be someone who is cleaning a room. He could be cooking, or he or she could be cooking. He could be taking a child to the school. She could be again working in a bank. Whatever the case may be, that does not take them away from that spiritual state of mind. So that to me is a spiritual. That is spirituality. It's a state of mind that talks to us about this particular tenet, which is God is supreme and we are his servants. If a person is in that state of mind, then we can say that that person is leading a spiritual life. Now, whatever are the rituals and the actions, or achara as we call it, that are prescribed, they are all done mainly to ensure that we are in that state of mind. It helps us in our state of mind. So, for example, it's the same thing like an athlete. An athlete is given a high protein diet. Why? Because the person has to play hard. It takes a lot of physical exertion, for which he needs that physical energy. Similarly, a spiritual quest needs a spiritual energy, and that comes with a certain set of practices. It comes with a certain set of restrictions or discipline that we call about, waking up at a certain time, eating a certain type of food, not eating some other type of food, and going through a certain set of a routine from morning to evening. One can turn around and say, why do we need that? Why do we need these unnecessary, it appears unnecessary restrictions on us? Those are not restrictions put on us to clamp us down, but on the other hand, they're made to help us in that spiritual quest. So that to me is spirituality. So the state of mind, and there are certain set of practices and habits one practices all the time.
Okay. So that, like every philosophy has a set of uh, what do you say is spiritual practices. Uh, that is left to each seeker, right? So they can practice any philosophical routines that they are accustomed to. Uh, do we have any say in that? Like, can a person can take on those practices which has been prescribed for them? Does that have any common benefit compared to Madhva Shastra or other Shastras as well?
Yes, so clearly, I think that the way of life that has been prescribed by all our gurus and practiced, and they have been the role models for all of us. They have also shown that at time to time, some of these practices have to evolve, and they are getting tuned to the changing times, etc. Have all been done to ensure that we hit that spiritual quotient, to ensure that we reach on our spiritual quest. So that is why I would say that yes, they are all meant to give us spiritual strength to be able to pursue that.
Okay. So the talking about gurus, like who are these true gurus? So there are so many gurus out there. Uh, how do you see as true gurus? How do you identify them? It's a task by itself. So Your point
Yeah.
of view
So,
on that.
oh yes, it's a very important question which keeps coming to us again and again. About who is a guru, how do I find my guru? And there is a topic of Niyata Guru, which is our ordained guru who is going to help us reach God. Now, in the current circumstances, the best way to do that about who is the right guru, who is the true guru, is understood by many of our texts, which actually define who is a guru. So, a guru is someone who should not have doubts of his own about philosophical topics, who should not have his own questions, and he himself should not be in a state of anxiety. On the contrary, he should be someone who removes the doubts of the person who's asking these questions. The second thing, guru, the word very the technical definition of guru is someone who removes darkness. Gu is as we know is darkness, ru is removing the darkness. So guru is someone who removes the darkness around us. Now we are so thankful to people who remove the darkness even in the physical world. Let's say you're sitting in a dark room and somebody comes with a lamp. We say, oh my God, you've given me eyes. He has not given us eyes, but he has given the light, which is so important to us. That without light, there's no point in having, even eyes. We will not be able to see. So imagine what will we say to the person who's throwing a light in the spiritual world, which is the world beyond, which to us, unfortunately, is a world full of darkness because we are not able to see. So a guru, therefore, is a very, very important person. And clearly, the Madhva philosophy describes the guru as someone, along with these definitions, also says that a guru is a person who takes his disciples towards God, towards theism, that is belief in God, and explains to them who are we and who is God and what's our relationship between the two. So it's a very it's a very tall ask about who is a guru. So looking at this, how does one find a guru? I would say that it's look at the answer comes to us from the life and works of so many great gurus whom we have seen about how they found their own guru. When you are on that pursuit and when you have an open mind, take my word, this might sound a little absurd, but if you are on that quest, God will definitely show you the way. Madhvacharya will show you the way by ensuring that you meet the right people, you talk to them, and with some people, with some scholars and some gurus, you have that, you have established that equation. And when you feel comfortable that you can ask them questions and learn from them, start with that guru. And if God willing, you will continue your entire philosophical journey on their on their guru, with that guru. Of course, the fundamental belief is that no matter who the guru is, it is Madhvacharya who is in them, who is giving you the right direction to where you should be going. And of course, within Madhvacharya, there is Lord Vishnu who is there, and he is the one who is guiding. So that's why we say Krishnam Bande Jagat Guru. He is the one who is the Jagat Guru of all times, and he will always show us the right path, provided we have make an attempt. So this might be a little open-ended answer, but I would say that all we need to start is to go and to God and pray to him that give me a guru. A guru will come to you in some form or the other. The second thing, of course, this is more of a pragmatic suggestion, that in today's world, one is the pandemic, the other one is the distances and the traffic that we all live in different parts of the world where you're listening to. Distance is a non-issue anymore, because there are enough online resources available for you to start that. And if you have a guru, most people are very adept at using basic technology to ensure that you can connect online and start your pursuit. But very importantly, start your spiritual pursuit today. In fact, I would say right now as we speak, because everything else can wait. This is not a moment for us to lose this. Unfortunately, because of several pressures that we have, this topic itself has taken a backseat in our life. And that's not our way of living at all. We are living a half life, because we are only looking at the world around us from one eye. When you look at the other eye, which is the philosophical eye, this world could take a different form altogether in front of us.
So there's a follow-up question by Chetan. He's saying, is a living guru whom we can talk to essentially gives us enlightenment or mukti?
Can you repeat that question, Santosh?
Is a living guru whom we talk to essentially can give us enlightenment or mukti?
Yes, sure. Because see, whenever we talk about any guru, when if he's taking you on the right path, what is important is the path, not so much the guru. As I said, anybody who's saying the right thing, he says that because he's inspired and motivated by Pranadevaru who is sitting inside that, and it's essentially God who is doing it. So the guru therefore becomes just a person, a conduit for that particular, philosophy, right? Look at a scientist. For example, a teacher in a college or in a school has taught us that subject. It's not that they invented it. They just conveyed that to us in a very nice way, and for that we have to be eternally thankful to them. So just because somebody is standing in front of you and whom you probably know a little better doesn't diminish their stature as a guru. You have to look at that person and say, yes, irrespective of who that person is, it is, I'm getting this because of God's grace, and I'm going to pursue philosophy under that person. So yes, definitely it is, that person will lead to that particular, uh, take you to mukti for sure.
Sundar, another question from Aisha Parveen. She says, like, a person having faith in Vaishnavism gets grace and guidance of a living guru. What name should he chant?
Yeah, so I think this is again a good question. Um, the idea is that one gets that state of salvation or aproksha gnana only when a person gets to know the form of God who is there within us. So I might have Krishna within me, somebody else could have Lord Narsimha within him, and so on. But to get to know that form of God is the whole spiritual pursuit. So till such time that person actually gets to know which form of God is there in him, he has to think about Sri Hari. It's very clear, it is prescribed in the texts that Sri Hari is the name that should be there. Now when you look at it, we always say that we should do Harinama Smarane or recollecting Sri Hari's name. Why don't we say Ramanama Smarane or Krishna Nama Smarane? They're all the same, we know that. But Hari is the prescribed name. It's like a password that you have to use till such time that you do not get that aproksha gnana or understanding of the form of God who is there within you. So you have to meditate on the name Sri Hari.
Sundar, like, there's another question from Arupa regarding this topic. Like, how do you choose guru? And till then, what you do? Do you just still keep contemplating about philosophy, or what is the route that you take, basically?
So I think before you actually meet a guru, I think the idea is to start looking at, absorbing different content that one gets from different sources. So for example, one can go to online, opportunities that are there. For example, online, we have several people who have uploaded hours and hours of lectures, which start, which start with a certain, on a particular topic. He can pick up a topic which is simple to him if he is a beginner. Otherwise, he can even take up some advanced topics that are there. The best thing I would say that is to listen to God's stories, because these stories sometimes we are familiar, but either way, whether we are familiar or not, they're still interesting. So, the basic import of writing all these granthas by the people who did was to entice people to understand philosophy. And the end result of reading a Ramayana or a Mahabharata or a Bhagavad Gita is to get that philosophical import onto us. It is not to tell stories about a few characters who are, again, who are just to create interest, but it is to get a spiritual and philosophical elevation for all of us. Frankly, God came as Vedavyasa and he has composed that. I don't think we needed Vedavyasa to come all the way to tell us stories. He has come here and he very clearly stated that the beginning and end of every philosophical text, that there is a certain pursuit, there is a certain objective that you should be achieving at the end of reading that philosophical text, which is to get that elevation in your life, get a deeper understanding of philosophical topics. So I would say that before you come to the conclusion about the guru, start listening to resources online. I'm suggesting this because of course, the current pandemic might not allow you to go out that frequently. Also, I would say if time permits, you should also start reading books on philosophy. Start with simple books, 50 pages, 100 pages, because every philosophical text is complete in its own way. And I would say that start reading by the smaller books, and then you can graduate to reading bigger books. And once you're a little more familiar with that form of that art, slowly, I think over a period of time, you will get very familiar, and you will meet that guru. You should also be seeking listening to different scholars, and the person, as I said, whoever is comfortable, you feel comfortable with, that person you should select as your guru. And our philosophy is strange. We are always used to teachers testing the student, but our philosophy says that the student should test the student at the teacher to check whether the person has got the capability, is knowledgeable. So once you meet that person and listen to their lectures, listen to interact with them, read the books that they have written, you will obviously come to know whether the frequencies are matching. And you should go to that person with all the respect, and then request that person to guide you in your philosophical text. Again, God will inspire the right message to reach you through the guru.
Moving on, Sunder, what is the unique relationship between God and soul? How does our Shastra look at this?
So I think we have always tried to define this. The unique relationship between the God and soul is simple. God is supreme, and the soul is someone who's completely dependent on him. The Madhva Shastra has a very unique way of describing it, which is Bimba and Pratibimba. Bimba meaning the object, and image meaning the image of that object in a mirror. So just like the image does not have any independence at all, and it's completely dependent on the object for everything, so is the relationship between God and us. We are dependent on God for everything. He is not dependent on us for anything. And yet, because of his karunya, or its kindness, he becomes he is someone whom we can call our friend. So Vishnor me Paramasruhat, it says. Lord Vishnu is a Paramasruhat. That Sruhat means friend. Paramasruhat means best friend. So God is our best friend, and he's always there with us. So we just look at the world around us. We have our parents, we have our partners, we have our children, we got our relatives, we got friends, got so many people. At work, we have our colleagues, we have our team, we have our manager, so on and so forth. We have so many relationships. But there is a limitation on what those people can actually give you beyond a certain point. The parents want to protect their child at all times, but can they protect the child at all times? In some stage, they themselves will not be there in this world. And even when they are there, they have all the right intentions, but they do not have the strength to be able to do that. Nobody, no matter how powerful that person is, he cannot protect us from all sides. But that is not the case with God. Number one, to protect us, he should be all powerful. Is he all powerful? Yes, he is. For him to protect us at all times, he has to be present everywhere. Is he present everywhere? Yes, he is present everywhere. Now, to change our mind, it's very difficult to get somebody to change their minds. Now, can God make us do that? Yes, because he is there within us as well. So there are very few things which are there within and outside with the same amount of power. So God is omnipresent, he is omniscient, he is omnipotent, and he is there within us. Antar bahischa tat sarvam na vyapya narayana sthitaha. As the Vedas say, that the God is inside us and he is also outside us, and is completely controlling the universe. So we have our best friend. So that's the way our Madhva philosophy also says that Vishnu or me Paramasrahat. Madhvacharya calls Vishnu his best friend. Now we are also Madhvacharya's best friends because we are his disciples. So therefore, the relationship between us and God is explained in that format, which is He's all present everywhere, He's omnipotent, He's supreme, and we are His servants, and He's our best friend.
Sundar, I have this questions on regarding soul gradations. So while we say that soul is always eternally happy, why there is few souls happy and why is that difference? It should be meant that all souls by default should be happy.
Yeah. So all souls cannot be happy because of two reasons. One is their basic nature. There is the different souls have different build up. They have their own DNA, because that which cannot be changed. That's one. So some of them are constantly seeking happiness. They are sattvika souls. They do the right things, and therefore they are eternally happy, or they will become eternally happy. The other ones are the evil souls. You put them in any scenario, they will only think about evil situations. The classic case is that of Bhima and Duryodhana. Both of them cousins, come from very similar lineage, but look at how different they are as individuals. The other thing which also happens is that when the soul starts moving from one birth to the other, it accumulates with it its own sins and its own it only says sins. So once the sins are accumulated in each birth and it doesn't go in the right direction, then obviously it has got sins of the past few births that it has to deal with. Once it overcomes, because of its nature, it is also able to overcome those sins. So whatever papas that we have committed, we are able to remove it if we are sattvikas. But on the contrary, if we are tamasic jivis, and soul is tamasic, it will start moving in the negative direction even when there is a positive opportunity available. So at that time, it will go in that direction. So though the starting point might be the same, the end point can be very different because of the nature as well as the accumulation of our karmas that we do in each and every birth. That has an impact on the happiness quotient that we experience.
Okay. Sundar, a follow-up question to this. Like, while jivas are always eternally happy, why does God ask us to go towards moksha? It's like from a happiness state, you go to a different state and then you go towards moksha, which requires a lot of jnana to be accumulated, a lot of tapas to be done. Why are we not left the way we are in the original form? Why do we have to do this entire exercise?
So it is because of our own nature, right? The soul is always wanting something, right? So for example, a sattvic soul wants to come into this world to perform good deeds and then attain the moksha. Similarly, an evil soul has it in its nature to seek negative things and then go to tamas. So it is based on that nature that they come into this world and go. Now coming to, let us say on a day-to-day basis, if somebody decides, okay, why should I do all the sadhana, that is also an option. When we say that something has to be performed, we have to perform meditation, we have to study the text, we have to perform pujas, prayers. When we say, it is only must for people who are on that spiritual path, it is not a must for people who don't want to be on that spiritual path. There can be somebody, for example, a boy goes for selection to a Ranji Trophy team, and then he may come to the conclusion, oh my God, this is very difficult. They're asking me to diet, they're asking me to exercise. I don't want to take it up. It is his choice to drop out of the race and say, no, I won't do this, I'll do something else. That's a choice that we all make. But that choice comes because of the nature of our soul. Like a good student loves an examination, because at the end of the examination, he's going to be successful. He embraces that challenge and goes through that, and then emerges victorious. I think that's the path that we all have to take.
So it's a voluntary act, isn't it? So that we have
Yes,
taken this.
yes,
Uh,
it's a voluntary act.
okay, based on our nature, we want to
No,
sort of take this. Isn't it that God pushes to take this, or is it our voluntary act that.
Yeah. So it is everything is guided on the basis of our own soul. God enables that to happen. Once, like for example, in a classroom, there are 20 people who are sitting, 20 students. At the face of it, they all appear similar, but the teacher gives the same lesson. Teacher doesn't teach differently to different students, but based on their own capability, they are able to absorb a certain thing, certain lessons, and they ask the right questions, get their some people do that, some people live with those doubts, and then they progressively fall off the learning curve, largely because they have not put in the necessary effort. So the teacher, when she says that this is mandatory, you have to do homework and come back to the class tomorrow, that she's doing that to ensure that you are moving in that direction. Similarly is our spiritual life. If it is in our nature, it's in our basic nature to move in a certain direction, to not go in some other direction. So that's what the philosophical life is all about.
Okay. So then moving on. The next topic is the idea of liberation or mukti. There's a question like what happens when someone leaves the body, or that is one, and mukti is for all tamasic souls. So the first question is what happens when someone leaves the body?
So one, depending on the nature of that soul and depending on the karmas that has happened, it's described in great detail. Unfortunately, we do not have the time to explain all the stages. Garuda Purana and many other Puranas actually explain what happens. The entire journey is explained in all the detail. So when the body leaves the soul, it goes through a certain set of experiences based on the karmas that it has accumulated, and it reaches its destination. Why we call it a destination is that the sattvic souls will start moving towards moksha. The tamasic souls will start moving towards andantamas, or a state of eternal darkness. And someone who is in between, the rajasas, who have a combination of that, will go in a direction which is a mix of both these worlds. The Harivai explains that in a pithy way, but other shastras explain it in greater detail. So it's really based on our nature, and which propagates us towards towards a different destination. So that is why you see that when in many cases our shastra says that have long term goals. When we say karmanye vadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana, it essentially means that when you're doing your karmas, do not expect a return which is short term. It doesn't mean that don't expect any fruits of this even in the long term. In the long term, you are entitled to your fruits because you have worked for it. But let that fruit not be so a lowly worldly desire, but something which is helping you elevate your philosophical and spiritual levels. So that is the message of the Gita, if you see, and that's one of the very unique explanations given by Sri Madhvacharya on Bhagavad Gita. So basically the idea is after the, the the soul leaves the body is of no use, it loses all its functionalities and becomes defunct, and the soul moves to its respective uh, to its respective destinations.
Okay. There's a couple of questions from Narahari. It's like saying, how do we fight with evil souls? Nowadays, there's a challenge to work with evil souls.
Yeah, so I think that is not a new challenge. It's not nowadays. It has always been the case. You just gave the example of Mahabharata. The history is replete with all this, this kind of a collusion or collision, not collusion, collusion that's happening between the even and the sattvic souls. It's something that is there. See, I think there are enough lessons about how you should be countering them, which is that I think no matter what happens, you should not lose the goodness that you have. And that is why you have great stories of inspiration from people like Prahalada and Dhruva. And we have done a workshop on Dhruva and the story of Dhruva itself, which is, always, no matter what happens, not losing faith in that goodness and not losing faith in God is something that should happen. Yeah, you might have to lose a few small battles here and there, but ultimately the war is going to be won only by people who are righteous. You should have that firm conviction in the way you deal with them. I think what happens to us is that when we see so much of negativity around us, it has an impact on us, and we also start responding to things in a negative way, which is not going to take us anywhere. The other person is going to get ruined, but in the process, this person who is also suddenly decided to become evil will also get ruined in the end. So right from childhood all the way till we die, we are in this world with a mix of people. I think the idea is to get inspired by the righteous souls and not let people who are negative impact us beyond a point.
Okay. Uh, Moving on, Sundar, that this question has been asked on YouTube. That I see a lot of philosophers answer this question, which is, what is the purpose of life? What is our purpose here?
Yeah, I think the purpose of life has been very clearly defined in all our shastras. The Brahma Sutras start with that. It says Athato Brahma Jignasa Om, which says that the pursuit of Brahman, or the God and the nature of God, is our true purpose. We are here because we are souls, and we have the eligibility and the, the the knowledge to be able to pursue and understand who is God. So that's the primary purpose for which we are there. Now, understanding God, who is God, what is his nature, how are we associated with him, etc., are the main purpose for us. Now, whatever we do around it is all designed, or all should be designed to help us in that eternal quest of who Brahman is. So that is what our shastras very very clearly prescribe. um, look at the Gita. It says nahi gnanena sadrisham pavitram iha vidyate. It says that nothing is as pure and sacred as knowledge, which is the path to understanding God. Through knowledge of the scriptures, to knowledge of our shastras, we are slowly moving towards that ultimate destination. So that is our purpose of life. Everything else that we do should be something that is complementary to that. So, for example, the rituals that we follow, the profession that we do. Yes, one has to earn a living in order to be to live and help others, to help live their lives, to meet our basic requirements, etc. One has to work, but whatever one does, if that person comes back at the end of the day and says, "Let whatever hard work I have done, all the fruits of that are offered on the feet of Lord Sri Hari," I think that is it by itself a big philosophical learning that they have brought into their thinking, and spend as much time as one can, as much energy as one can, understanding God. So that's the purpose of our life.
Sundar, in the contrary, I've also heard few philosophers saying that there is no meaning to life. I mean, why do you chase? Why do you give a meaning to the life or the purpose? There's no such thing. There's nothing purpose to the life. Is that the point of view that someone needs to take it, or how
No,
do you see it?
I think that's a very empty definition of the world and the life. Life is so interesting. Why should one make it so dull and dim by saying there's no purpose? Imagine you're sitting in a bus and people ask, "Okay, where are you going?" You say, "I don't know." It is the journey is very boring if you don't know where you're going. I think what is important is that I think that's a view of the life which is definitely not prescribed by in our scriptures. And look at what is the purpose of the scriptures. They are trying to help us live a meaningful life, and something that makes elevates our life. At the end of our lives, we want to die happily with the looking at the journey that we have taken. Each moment of that, when we have the opportunity to make each moment in our life interesting, purposeful for us, purposeful others, why should one give up that opportunity? Every second, every minute, every hour has got the potential to give us a new experience, give us a new spiritual elevation. Why would one want to leave that and think about life that it has no purpose? Yes, there is. There are some people who believe that these we are simply attributing all this that does not exist, which I don't think is right. The word very word called journey means it has a destination, and life is a journey, and it has to have a destination, and it has to have a purpose.
Okay. Uh, so then, like, doesn't it like I've also heard that moksha and heaven are also like attaining like a purpose of life. So what does that moksha and heaven mean? Like, aren't they are like the end games, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so that is the end. That's the end result. That is the end state that we all want to. Suppose I ask anybody who's attending this workshop, and I see there are so many questions that I think we'll have to go on forever to answer all of them. But just look at the questions and look at all the people. If you ask anybody, what do they want? They're going to ask you. They tell you only two things. One is, I want happiness. I don't want any sorrow. That state of eternal bliss is nothing but moksha. So it is something that comes because of a very thorough understanding of ourselves, God, and the world around us. So it is an end game, it is an end result of a continuous pursuit. If it was something that was so easy, that is primarily because the nature of our soul and all the karmas that we have actually performed in the past, which actually come to which contribute to that. So ultimately it's a long journey, and it's a very purposeful journey. Every step in that journey, when it is taking us to that state of happiness, we means that we are already in that path. So I had given that example some time back. Let's say you are living in Delhi, and let's say Delhi is very warm, and you are moving towards Shimla. It's a hill station. The moment you start moving towards Shimla, slowly, every half an hour, you will find that the weather around you is becoming cooler. So you don't have to wait for that moksha, for that ultimate happiness. That is a state of permanent happiness. But even when one is pursuing that, say for example, somebody is reading a philosophical text, and there is a complex problem which has come up, or which is getting discussed, finding an answer to that complex problem itself will give you a lot of happiness. Think about it like a student. He works for the entire year to write an exam and see what his results are. And when he gets very good results, he is of course very happy. But think of those moments, every single moment that he took enjoying the process of study itself. He has enjoyed so many moments. And why should one lose the enjoyment that lies in every moment? So if we are in that spiritual pursuit, you don't have to wait for some big thing to happen. It is every moment that you are doing something will give you that eternal happiness. You are praying. At the end of the prayer, you have happiness. You are meditating. At the end of that meditation, also there is a happiness. You have read one shloka in Bhagavad Gita. That will also give you happiness. You have helped one person with supporting him in some activity. That gives you happiness. Everyone doesn't have to be a full-fledged multi-crore charitable institution to make crores of donation and then feel happy. So every step in that direction is going to make happy. It's like climbing the Tirupati hill. Every step that you take closer to God will give you that satisfaction and that happiness. Of course, the ultimate happiness is when you reach the peak and you enter the temple and have the darshan. There is nothing to beat that.
Okay. Uh, so the Chetan asks, moksha is different and heaven is different. Is it right?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. They are different. Heaven is refers to the Swarga, as it's called. It is several notches below moksha. It is a state of abundance. It is a place where there is a lot of abundance of many things, but it is not free from unhappiness. It's not free from sorrow. So it's an intermediate state, but it is not the ultimate bliss.
Final state.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on, Sundar, there are a few questions that were asked to us, like why Madhvacharya for youth and why not for everyone?
Yeah, so I think that's a very interesting question. It had come to us before as well. Why Madhvacharya for the youth is simple. If you look at the ultimate aim of Madhva Shastra, it is to give that state of moksha, or it's a workbook if you want permanent happiness. I think where is it said is said it's said in the Guru's name itself, Ananda Tirtha. That means the abundance of happiness is Ananda Tirtha. So when you look at what is the end result of getting understanding Ananda Tirtha Shastra is Ananda or happiness. Now moksha, as we defined, is the end result, and you will be surprised or not surprised. For those of you who know this, there is another name for moksha, which is called yuva. Yuva means a state of bliss or moksha. That's called yuva. That's another name. So it is something which is a state one reaches when that person is completely happy. There are no sorrows. There is no question of old age and young age. Because in that state, the question of age does not arise because there is no body. It's just a soul. Now, why we said Madhvacharya for the youth is that the ultimate result of Madhva Shastra is happiness, and that is yuva. The other reason is, if you look at the web resources that are available, several resources which have lectures by different scholars, different people who are coming and presenting are already present. We've got more than 15 to 20,000 hours of lectures by different scholars, if you just add it up, which are there, which are available, which are presented in a format, in a language, in a structure which is quite appealing to people who are elder and who have already got some initiation into the philosophical world. For them to understand, there is some resource, a lot of resources available. But for the youth of today, I think they need that information to be given to them in a pithy form, in a short form, preferably in English, so that they can understand that because of their education and so on, and they prefer that in that format. And we in at Madhvacharya for the youth, it is our simple attempt to ensure that this information reaches them in a simple way in English, and it's something that they can put to use every day. We don't want this workshop to be on Sunday, and end of day Sunday everything is forgotten. Monday morning it's a working day, all of us have to go to work, so let us leave philosophy behind. No, this is something which is a workbook for our life. I saw one of the questions where somebody asked, can you tell me how Madhva philosophy has benefited me as a person? I can safely say that definitely I feel I'm a better professional because of the fact that I've done some basic studies of philosophy. It's a very long journey to go, but having taken the first few steps has definitely enriched me in the way I look at others, in the way I look at behaviors, in the way I'm able to change some of my own behavior when I'm at my workplace. The commitment to work, the honesty that we can all bring to our work. So many things can be learned from this form of philosophy. Very, very importantly, I think for me has been that wherever you go, if you are in that spiritual frame of mind, it always helps you to know that you are not alone in this world. You have a certain purpose and there is someone with you wherever you go. That itself is the best thing for any human being, any living thing for that matter, to know that there is somebody always with you. So I think that is one very concrete takeaway I have had from philosophy, which I have learned from our gurus.
Okay. Sunder, Chetan is asking, like, can you please tell us a few books to understand Madhva philosophy? I think we have also like had this slide before. We can probably like send out like a few
Yes,
suggestions that
yes,
we'll put it on the chat box so that all the viewers can like take the information from there.
sure, sure.
Uh,
We had talked about those resources. We'll be
Correct.
happy. You can also write to a separate email to us, Chetan, if you want, and we will respond with that response, and we'll also put it in the chat box here from that slide.
Moving on, as we discussed that the upcoming sessions would slightly would be presented in a different way, which is the way forward that we discussed. So I would request you to sort of spend a couple of minutes on the way forward that we had discussed for our Madhvacharya for Youth.
Yeah. This is the way forward. We have obviously been running the workshop in a different way for the last 11 occasions that we have done this since the 106th workshop. So what we're going to do forward is that we're going to have a mix of online live webinars like what we are doing today. We will also have 10 to 12 minute videos that we are putting upon different topics. You will see that when you actually go into that details, I can share more details of that. So 10 to 12 minute videos will be uploaded by us frequently, which is practically every week or 10 days. And then we'll have short videos of 3 to 5 minutes which are addressing different philosophical topics, which you can consume very quickly, and which give you the full import of whatever we want to talk about. So that will be the structure. We'll have online live webinars. We'll have the Vedic streams, which are 10 to 12 slightly detailed videos, and we'll also have very short 3 to 4 minute videos which are quick on your takeaways. Now, what are the topics that we want to talk about? We want to talk about Dvaita series, which is, we have a bunch of series that we have taken up, which is discussion and understanding of Madhvacharya's philosophical tenets. What are the basic topics of philosophy? We'll talk about Bhagavad Gita series, which is again a full exposition of understanding God's own words in God's own words, which is Bhagavad Gita. We will talk about Upanishads series, where we take each Upanishad at a time and we will get the main purport of that particular Upanishad and what's the principal message that Upanishad is giving us. We will talk about Mahabharata, which is replaying the epic in today's context. Mahabharata happened in the past, but we can see a reflection of all those characters, all those incidents, even today in our world. So in our life. So what are the learnings that we can take from Mahabharata? Then we'll talk about the meditation series. I think all of you are already familiar with the Ananda Dhyana Yoga that we had taught everyone a few workshops back. If you have not watched it, please go and watch it. There were 2 or 3 workshops that were done on how do you actually perform meditation as per the Vaishnava tradition, and how do you practice it over and over again. We had a renowned guru coming and teaching us on how to take up this. So please do watch it. We will talk more about it in the subsequent sessions. Similarly, Santosh, if you can go to the next topic. So just taking one topic like Bhagavad Gita, we will talk about, these are the topics that we want to touch about, which is global appeal for the Bhagavad Gita. Why is it a universally accepted text? What do you mean by Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and so on? And the uniqueness with which Dvaita philosophy is explained and understood the Bhagavad Gita. We will look at that. We will also look at a very specific workshop where we are talking about Gita Vivritti, which is Sri Raghavendra Swami's Bhagavad Gita text, which is his interpretation of Bhagavad Gita in the light of the commentaries given by Madhvacharya and Sri Jaitirtha. And of course, we will also try and address the basic question, which said that did Bhagavad Gita actually happen? There are many people who question whether such a great philosophical text could have been explained in such a short time. And there are very interesting questions which we will try and answer in the subsequent workshops. So similar to that, we look at perfect lessons, right? What is a perfect day? How today is a perfect day? When Purandaradasa says, Indana Dinave Shubha Dinavu, means today's day is a very auspicious date. So how to make each day count in your life? What is a perfect prayer? The Gayatri Mantra is the perfect prayer. The perfect teacher, how Madhvacharya has got all the making of the right teacher or the perfect teacher. We'll talk about the perfect text, which is Mahabharata. Then we'll talk a perfect song, which is Gita, and beauty of 1,000 names of Vishnu, Shri Vishnu Sahasranama. We'll talk about the background, the context, and why one should recite it, and also give some indications on what the meanings of those 1,000 names are. And finally, we'll talk about topics like Nachiketa's brilliant questions, where in the Upanishad, he's actually asking questions which are so relevant to all of us even today. And many of the questions that we are getting from our workshop is all centered around that. We'll also run a biography series, which is life and works of our great masters and our great guru. We'll talk about our rituals. Why do we perform rituals? And how do we do that correctly? We'll also try and share some resources with you, which will help you understand these resources, the rituals, and how you can perform it, with all the ease in a short period of time. I know we are all challenged for time. And greatness of Bharata, or greatness of India, where the fantastic country that we come from, which has been so unique in its contribution to areas like mathematics, archaeology, architecture, the field of medicine, and so on. We'll look at each of those in short videos. So these are certain things that we want to talk about. Santosh, if you can move forward. So our request to participants has been that please do suggest topics and questions that you have. We are really very happy that you have shown a lot of interest in this workshop. Thousands of people watch it live and subsequent to the end of the workshop. Please keep that coming. Please give us suggestions on the topics that you want us to address in this workshop, and what can we do better. Is there something that we can do better to ensure that these lessons come to you? Register. If you want to be a volunteer, please do come and register with us. Write to us at Madhvacharya for this email ID which is there, which again we will which we will cut and copy in the comments shortly, or it's available at the end of every YouTube video which goes up live. You can take it from there, and you can reach out to us on these channels as well. So so the next slide, Santosh, is our next workshop will be on the 6th of January. We are not having sessions in December because we will be productionizing a number of these videos, and you will see it up on live in the subsequent workshops. But our next live webinar is going to be on the 6th of January.
Cool. Thanks, Sunder, for giving us your time, and thanks all the Madhvacharya for Youth volunteers for putting up this beautiful piece for us. We know that...
Santosh, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I have to answer one question though, which has
Sure,
come to us repeatedly. See, there is a reference saying that we take the name of our Guru, who is a Jagat Guru, in singular tense. So when we say Sri Madhvacharya, many people find it a little offending. The fact is, in English, there is no concept of plural. Okay, that is the way the language is. So if we are speaking in English, there is no meaning, there is no difference whether we say Sri Madhvacharya or Sri Madhvacharya Ru. It is actually a Kannada word which doesn't find a place in English. So just to maintain the purity of language, we say it that way, but it does not mean that in any way that we do not respect the Jagat Guru. There is no doubt in our minds that he is the Jagat Guru, and it is just the language which does not permit us to use words like that, which mean something else in Kannada. So for example, in Kannada we would say, or in Sanskrit we would say, Madhvacharya Ru or Madhvacharya. In Kannada they are different things. In English they are not. So I would apologize if somebody got offended, but that is the real reason why we use these names. Sorry, Santosh, I interrupted.
Cool.
But I thought that was important.
Thanks for the clarification, Sundar. Yeah, so there are a lot of questions coming in, so we would definitely take up those questions and answer them in our in coming days, and then we would request to keep watching and follow us in all the channels. The next workshop we will update you through over a mail and SMS. So till then, thanks for joining us, and Sundar, thanks for your time.
Yeah, one request to all the volunteers is that if you can please copy all the questions before the end of the session, because after that we can't retrieve them. If you can just put all these questions, I think, and copy it into a document, that will really help us. Thanks, Santosh. Namaste.
Cool. Thanks.